Hello, good morning. Welcome back to another video. I am back home in England in the English countryside in Derbyshire in the Peak District, as you can see. So I thought, why not film a Q&A video, because there has been some great questions that came my way, and I've just finished my Syria series. Not just Syria, in fact, the entire Middle East series. So yeah, I thought of exploring the market town nearby today and have a bit of Sunday roast lunch. Yeah, show you a bit of the British countryside as per usual. Let's go. So I have categorized all of these questions into several categories, and the first few questions are generally about my travel, where I'm at, what's my next destination, and whether you'll be seeing more of the UK videos. So to give you a bit of perspective, I am back home now in the UK for the past few months since my Middle East travel, and the next travel video that I'm hoping to make is actually from the Baltics, which is going to be Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. A bit nervous because it will be much colder than this, and the question is whether I can create travel series in the span of 2 weeks. This is my 10th year being on the social media, creating these videos for you to enjoy and for me to sort of experience travel in many different ways. And I think I have come to a realization that I will not be making YouTube videos full time anymore. However, now that I am back, sort of to my solo travel kind of videos, I do think it would be worthwhile to still film live here in the UK, if that makes sense. Yeah, there are so many transitions that I'm experiencing internally, which I hope you'll be patient with that. Some more interesting questions are revolving around what is my favorite travel destinations, and it's really hard to pinpoint countries because they're just so different, aren't they? But I can say on top of my list would be Mongolia, just because of the really fascinating landscape and the kind of experience I had with the nomadic family. Many different countries actually, including Iran, Tajikistan, Nepal, yeah. Of course the UK as it is, because it is home. It's very much home for me. Some questions regarding solo female traveller, whether there are countries that would be best for first time solo female traveller, or any experiences that are considered as scary. I think, if I'm being honest, any countries that are near to where you are from could be a good exercise to travel as your first time destination, because the familiarity makes you feel at ease with these destinations that you're going to. Perhaps there's similar languages, there is similar culture that you can just get on with quite easily. You sort of know how to navigate your way around it if you start somewhere near to where you're from originally. For me, in terms of scary experience as a solo traveller, lots of them. I don't know how to categorize them, but I think my husband can answer some of the question a bit more, because if anything, he's the one who's a bit more scared about my solo travel experience.
Well, it's a lot scarier when you're not in control.
Yeah.
So obviously when I can't contact you and you're in a place that's maybe, I don't know,
yeah,
more...
out of signal, especially if there's no internet. There was one time when I was riding motorbike in Taiwan, and the last connection we had was a few hours prior to me meeting a local family, and then suddenly I was brought into a family home in the mountainous village, and then you thought that I was being kidnapped.
Well, also in Albania, when
That's
you were
true.
on you were in like a a scooter which wasn't suitable for off-road.
Yeah.
And then the light was getting dim. I think your phone might have even been running out
Yeah.
of power, and you were like you were panicking.
I was panicking
And
because it was
then, of
getting
course, I'm
really
panicking.
cold.
But yeah, I mean, most of the time it's fine. I think it's just moments, certain moments, like border crossings are always
Yeah, especially the
nerve-wracking.
recent one with Syria.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. The scariest one was Belarus, I think, which I've never mentioned on the channel.
Yeah, because you got your drone taken off you.
Yeah, and I was put...
And then the last thing I heard, we were on the phone and you said, there's military coming towards me, I have to put the phone down, hang up. And I'm like, what the hell has gone? And then and then she was texting me saying they're taking me to the police station. And I was like, oh no. And then I was about to text back and she said, don't text back, they might see my phone. And I was like, shh. And then it was like...
I've never actually mentioned that on YouTube channel because it's too politically sensitive, and I know it was so stressful. It was also stressful for me, and there's a huge language barriers considering that everyone speaks Russian.
And then I didn't hear from you for like 2 hours or something.
I know, it was so bad. It was so bad, but yeah, I was so glad that the video came out well because I think I was so depressed after that in the first 2 weeks after that thing happened, and all I did was watching Downton Abbey. And I was so thankful to Ira, my local friend in Belarus, because she was able to just host me during my tough times.
And they were so concerned because you were just in your room.
Yeah,
and they were like, are you okay?
Not eating and anything.
Yeah.
Look, we are too early and the pub is not even open, so I thought of answering some of the questions. The reason being that I've just finished my travel and my videos about Syria, and one of the questions that popped up was about what I liked the most about Syria, and I think it was such a huge trip. Given how Syria is so popular on the news for the very wrong reason. So I didn't know what to expect. The thing that I loved about Syria the most was the connection to some of the women I had, and it was just so heartwarming. The food, obviously, and the immense diversity that I was able to experience, and especially the Crusaderian castle. That was so mind-blowing. I didn't expect that. And in regards to my travel, some questions related to my planning, how did I decide where to go, whether I researched before going to certain countries. I think the questions are really going to be varied because countries like Syria, I was already organized my trip with a group tour, so I didn't have to think so much about my travel apart from having to border cross from Jordan. For me, to go to a certain country, first of all, I need to be able to go there because my passport usually limits my ability to travel freely. So first, whether I'll be interested in certain countries, but also second, can I actually go there with my very limiting passport is the question. So we've managed to get a table for two, but it is absolutely stunning, this interior design, as you can see, especially with the log fire. It's so cozy. There's one thing about the British culture that you have to experience whenever you visit the country is to actually have a meal at a proper pub, especially in the countryside like this.
Do you know what you'd like to order?
Yes, please.
What can I get for
Can
you?
we have 2 Derbyshire beef strip loin?
Yep, 2 of the beef roast, yep.
I think that's...
I think that's it. Actually, can we get olives as well?
Oh, and
is
olives,
it-
yeah,
just to start.
just be nibbling on, yeah, that's fine.
Lovely. Cheers. Svalbard. So we were talking about my decision as to which destinations usually I would go to and how the decision process happened. And I think it comes down to my passport ability, where this document can like sort of allow me, because that's like my entry ticket, if that makes sense. Now that I live in the UK, I actually am not so keen to travel that far anymore. So, like for example, the next one in the Baltics, I have currently a Schengen visa that will valid until April this year, and I thought it's still within a very good reason of travel, so I would just choose countries that I'm interested in. And thankfully, we have about a year and a half until I obtain my UK citizenship, and I'm so looking forward to that. I just so look forward to it. Regarding editing process, because as you can see, videos take a lot of time to edit, not only from planning, researching, actually traveling, and post-production, which involves editing. Usually it takes about a minimum to 10 to 12 hours or more, depending on the raw footage. The last serial video had got well over 2 hour raw footage, which was really frustrating. So thank you. I keep forgetting how strong olives flavor. Gosh, I wasn't expecting this. I was just in the loop for a few minutes and it's here. Gosh, look at this beauty in front of me. I just don't think I have the heart to eat it. So we've got the Yorkshire pudding, we've got mashed potato, that's the roast. We've got a few bits and bobs over there, kale and carrots. Dave is already savouring it all. Look at the gravy as well. It's succulent, this beef, it looks like. My goodness, what a thing of a beauty. This Yorkshire pudding is just like a crown on top of this gorgeous meal. Oh, such a happy place. Wow. Wow. So we've just finished our lunch and the bill came about 55, including tip, 10% tip, wasn't it? And each meal cost £20. I am just sitting in the village green because it looks so quaint. It's grey, but it's dry, and that's more important, knowing how wet the UK is. Behind me there's a telephone booth with some funny, dry British humour. Would you say that, babe? It's a bit like dad jokes. Yeah, it's quite funny. But to my right, you've got the community shop, because it basically functions as a post office, as groceries, bits and bobs that they sell. It's just quite interesting, really. Sorry?
Coffee and tea.
Coffee and tea. I wouldn't trust the coffee version. If you love your coffee, yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. Welcome to Bakewell, guys. This is a market town in Derbyshire. I thought of visiting here because I don't think we've been, and it's quite quaint, while answering some of the questions you have about money and how can I manage and afford traveling full time while also making videos. So if you don't know, YouTube is my primary source of income, and I've been doing it for the past almost 10 years now, doing bits and bobs in between. But this is also where I have been able to travel full time because all of my time has been invested into video making. So the ads that you often see in this video is basically how I am able to get paid by Google's. It's called Google AdSense, and partially also through Patreon, which is a paid membership. And sometimes, if I'm lucky to be working with certain brands, these are part of brand sponsorships. And all of this income have been able to be the source of my funding to further making travel videos. However, if I'm being honest, it's not been great because it's so unstable, and this is also the reason why I think I'm going to be no longer working full-time on YouTube and try to look for something else in my life apart from doing YouTube. Someone also asked a very good question regarding permit, whether I need a specific visa to be able to make travel videos. So majority of the time I would just be visiting as a tourist and document my own travel. But certain countries, such as Syria, recently I was able to get a filming permit for my entire trip by visiting the Ministry of Information, I think. So yeah, it just depends and varies. But obviously I am not technically a journalist, I'm just a travel blogger. So yeah, usually often I would reach out to locals if I have contacts and people that can help me with finding stories, and if not, I just make do and find spontaneity and stories along the way, because more often than not I rely on spontaneity in finding this kind of stories myself. Right, so I am going to answer some more because it is so cozy when it's so wet and dreary outside to just be inside sitting and drinking hot drink. Look, if you don't know the story of where I started solo traveling in 2013, and I left the country where I was born into in 2016. And in doing so, all of my travels, my solo travel and YouTube has become the source of motivation and source of sense of home when I was on the road. All of those people I met and life stories have taught me and shaped me into who I am today. But since moving here, being married to my lovely husband in front of me, it's our 7th year together. It's my 4th year being in the UK, and only very recently it clicks. I feel so at home. I speak the language. I feel integrated. No, there's no perfect country. That's all what I'm trying to say. But it's still better. It's still better than not having any sense of home at all. And this is where I think my travel has become less and less appealing for me than it used to be. Because in the past, I would have spent 6 months of a year or the entirety of the year to be on the road. But not anymore. It's not as enticing anymore. So I don't know if it's the magic of having a husband or if it's just having a good marriage. I think we are very, very blessed in that regard. So yeah, I'm quite happy to be where we are right now. So we are back in a car, thankfully sheltered, just about time actually, for some of more juicy questions, because it seems like people are very interested in the idea of this nationalities, identity, sense of belonging, and especially religion. One person asked, have you had to explain living Islam while traveling when it comes to safety and discretion? Because obviously as a solo female traveler it's important. So I think, I don't know if you have seen this in some of my videos, the most repetitive question would be, am I married? Or in it's mostly the conservative countries would ask this question, whether I would have certain religion, and specifically, what religion do you practice? And I'd say none, nothing to explain further than that. So
I guess people, if they don't know your history,
Yeah.
there's not too much question about it, is it? So
Yeah.
it's not like you have to hide it or try to, avoid the question.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't come up that often. Obviously, in some countries, it's, I guess, where religion is more core
Yeah.
to the culture.
Yeah.
Maybe they're more likely to ask. But
yeah, true. But also at the same time, it doesn't really change the way I fundamentally treat them or how I act around them. I mean, there are so many differentiating beliefs and perspective and views of the world and gender and whatever we can. I'm not going to touch that. But as a human being, I would try to just be kind. I think people have been interested in my life in the UK. And for me, I don't know how you see it, but I feel like in the beginning I was really struggling to stay put, wasn't I? And it was really constantly wanting to be on the move.
Well, I think there was like a conflict, because I think you really even from the very beginning, you really enjoyed the stability and comfort of just being at home.
Yeah.
But you did get restless after a few months.
Yeah.
But then the contrast was the same. As soon as you started travelling, you would want to be home.
Yeah.
Even from quite early on. And I think it's because, as well, you had this taste of comfort, which you probably didn't have for so many years of solo travelling.
Yeah.
And then once you had a little bit of it, you sort of kind of, it was difficult to let go. So it's like, when you went travelling, it would take a week for you to adjust, to almost like let go of the comfort. And then when you're like that, you really enjoyed the travel.
I think it's
Okay.
because for the longest time, me and myself is my own sense of company and taste of comfort, meaning that sense of belonging. Home includes you and families, of course, here, and people that I've made friends with, and sort of my own activity independently apart from us, if that makes sense. So then I have become more independent in my own feelings and sense of ownership in how I feel about my presence in the UK, and I can proudly say yes. If anything, it's funny because I saw someone talking badly about British people and I was so defensive. I was like, no, you don't say that.
They're not that bad.
I've never felt a sense of belonging to Indonesian people, and it's really difficult to say that if you come from a communal society where individual identity is not very much something that is considered as good. But if it's something that I have felt since childhood and or high school, I think I'm not saying that just because. I'm not saying this because I want to be cool or trendy or whatever, because I love my parents and we still are in touch. We video call and we video chat. If anything, our relationship have been really good. But it doesn't mean that I miss anything about that aspect. I don't feel homesick. I've never felt. I mean, I left that 10 years ago on my conscious decision. And if anything, I miss this. So that's what I'm homesick about often. Overall, thank you so much for posting your questions. I'm just very grateful for your support. Entering my 10th year being on YouTube, it's been also something that I constantly discuss it with Dave, because this job, as much as it's great, it's so lonely. And there's a sense of wanting to become even more integrated into the society here by being part of something. And perhaps I can keep YouTube as a side hustle or whatever, but to keep it as a main job, it's unstable financially. I mean, living cost is expensive, but also travel have become so expensive, and the process of maintaining that as a job.
Also, just the nature of YouTube has changed so much.
Yeah.
It's more like a TV network. It's no longer just like you throw vlogs up and people will watch.
It's hard to compete with that constantly.
Yeah. So it's just a completely different thing than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, so I think it's a bit sad talking about it, but I'm quite glad to be just forward and answer about this, and I hope you've enjoyed this different type of video, and let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I would love to have conversations going. I think that if anything, this is what I'm going to do this year, to ask you even more what you think of the video, your own personal opinion and whatnot. So see you again next time. Bye.
Bye.